Hey there everybody and welcome back to the Gundam Retrospective. Today we are talking about Mobile Suit Gundam Narrative, the 2018 film sequel to Gundam Unicorn. With Unicorn being one of the most successful entries into the franchise at the time, Narrative had a pretty high bar to clear. This movie takes place 1 year after the end of Unicorn and the opening of that show's MacGuffin, Laplace's box. Laplace's box? I don't remember. Narrative follows newly introduced characters as they attempt to find and stop the previously unmentioned third Unicorn suit, the Phenex, as it makes a mysterious reappearance in the Earth sphere after going rogue. Narrative features a lot of references to Gundam Unicorn, Char's Counterattack, and Zeta Gundam, so you're going to get the most out of it if the UC saga is fresh in your mind, or otherwise committed to your memory. Its plot is delivered through a lot of flashbacks that seem to interrupt the action, and while I didn't dislike the backstory of the three main characters, I do think it would have been better to just show a single flashback instead of showing the audience 3 or 4. Also, just a heads up, I live in the northeast of the United States and it is fucking hot and humid. It's essentially 93% humidity outside today, so it's a boiling fish bowl. So my air conditioner is on, if you can hear it. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the story. This is a deep dive into the plot of Mobile Suit Gundam Narrative. The story opens with our three main characters, Yona, Michelle, and Rita, getting off their bus just as Zeong has declared war on the Earth Federation. As Yona and Michelle catch up to Rita, they're shown a vision of the coming violence that will be unleashed during the 1-year war. Rita is a new type, and quite a powerful one. In fact, she's so in touch with her new type powers that she causes them to rub off on the other two kids. Yona wakes up years later, in the year 0097, after dreaming about the 1-year war and various Neo Zeong conflicts that have plagued the universal century. Throughout the movie, the audience is subjected to small flashbacks that gradually piece together what happened to the three friends known as the Miracle Children. And due to Yona remembering terrifying experiments being done on Rita, you can guess that it's most definitely nothing good. As for Yona, we see that he has joined the Federation military and still yearns to find out what happened to his friend. Michelle, on the other hand, seems to be doing very well for herself, being a high-ranking member of the company Lu & Co. In fact, she's pretty much in charge of the company. We learn almost immediately that she was adopted by the founder of the company, Woomin Liu, and has used her suspected new type powers to work as a diviner to keep the company afloat during the many conflicts we've seen in Gundam. In the year 0097, Michelle has become obsessed with the abilities of the Unicorn Gundam, specifically because the pulse unleashed by it at the end of that show caused something completely unheard of. All the mobile suits that were disabled at the end of Unicorn seem to not only have their engines shut down, but completely disassembled, almost as if they were sent back in time before the suits were even built. Michelle seems to chase this power to control time in order to save her adopted father, who appears to be being held in some sort of stasis. He looks just about ready to kick the bucket, to be honest. With the Unicorn and Banshee both supposedly disassembled by Federation inspectors, Michelle sets her sights on capturing Martha Bist, a character featured in Unicorn and a key figure in the creation and testing of the Unicorn suits. Martha has been arrested by the Federation after the Laplace incident, and while being transported by Fedi authorities, her vehicle is attacked by undercover Lu & Co. private contractors. I love how when the car is stopped, this guy pulls a handgun and then just gets stepped on. Does he think he's Tom Hanks in Saving Private Ryan? Also, doesn't Martha's jacket look very similar to the uniform jackets that Tekkadan wear in Iron-Blooded Orphans? I just thought that was neat. Yona is revealed to be one of the pilots working for Lu & Co. and is later said to be on loan from the Federation's military. It's apparent that he was specifically hunted down to be part of this mission by Michelle. Michelle offers for Martha to come with them. It's not like she has much of a choice. Michelle says they're hunting the third unicorn, the Phenex, and apparently Martha's knowledge of how it was built and its capabilities will come in quite handy. I say apparently because the movie just skips directly to them hunting the Phenex, and Martha is never shown in the story again, so I guess she just kinda got off scot-free, at least for now. The movie heads up into space, where we immediately see a secret Federation squad known as the Shazar Unit engaging the Phenex and attempting to stop or destroy it. Most of the Shazar Unit are barely even named characters, but their leader, Iago, is pretty cool, especially when we learn that he was involved in a pivotal event of Char's counterattack. But the Shazar Unit does have one great thing going for them. They all pilot just mobile suits, which are some of the coolest fucking mobile suits in the Gundam franchise. I mean, just look at it. It's black and cool, and has a red visor, and it's a development offshoot of the Jegan. Just an amazing mech design no matter how you look at it. But an amazing design does not mean that you can keep up with a big gold super robot that is literally powered by the human soul or whatever, so they need some help. The Jestas have to get the hell out of the way as this huge beam is fired from their flank that heralds the arrival of their reinforcements, the RX-9 Narrative Gundam. This thing comes in hot, and as a total surprise to the Shazar team, who aren't super excited that the cavalry is essentially a mobile suit on loan from Lu & Co. Of course, Yona is the one piloting the narrative, which is kind of interesting. I mean, as a pilot, Yona is pretty run-of-the-mill, so having him be the Gundam pilot is a change of pace that we haven't seen too much in the franchise, probably since the Gundam Alex was piloted by a test pilot back in War in the Pocket. While the audience does get some hints that Yona might be a new type, especially since he was one of the Miracle Children, his abilities are actually a bit more complicated than that, as we'll see later on. As for the Gundam narrative itself, the suit design is pretty neat, as it's a stripped down Gundam meant for collecting data on the use of psycho frame technology. It was built by Anaheim Electronics years earlier as a test bed for the development of the new Gundam. As it was never meant to engage in battle directly, it has a bunch of unarmored parts and is generally a more compact mech than any of the designs that spin off from it. As for how Lu & Co. got a hold of it, well, they pretty much bought it illegally from Anaheim on the gray market, and then they make a bunch of optional strap-on weapons and booster packs for it, and they might have gone ahead and slipped in a few secret parts as well that will be revealed later. With the narrative Gundam on the scene, the battle turns into Yona attempting to get close enough to the Phenex to capture it. He's able to hold down the suit with these claws that produce an energy barrier that interferes with the Phenex's psycho waves. The Phenex is able to bust out, but Yona is close enough to fire one of those communication wires at the suit. As soon as he tries to communicate with the pilot, he gets a new type flash, and everyone in the battle area can hear the words of Rita projected directly into their mind. Rita speaks about questioning the reality of heaven, saying that she believes people are reborn over and over again. Finally, she seems to speak directly to Yona, telling him that she wishes to be reborn as a bird, which is something that is repeated quite frequently in the movie and comes directly from Yona's memories. As a member of the audience, it's pretty obvious from the get-go that Rita isn't actually flying around, piloting the Phenex, which is the view that Yona also has on it. However, Michelle seems to flip-flop back and forth, sometimes seeming like she thinks that Rita could still be alive and piloting the suit, though the movie does make it kind of seem like she's just lying to herself at that point. The Phenex speeds off into space, escaping the narrative and the Shazar unit and living to fight another day. Before continuing on with the Federation op, we get a scene with Princess Mineva of the Republic of Zeon speaking with the faction's foreign minister, Monaghan Bacaro. The two seem to be at odds and playing political games, with Mineva bringing up the fact that the minister is using the remnants of the Sleeves, an ultra-nationalist offshoot of Zeon from Unicorn, to undertake a mission within Federation space. It's nice to see Mineva have a scene or two, as I think she's a really interesting character, especially after the events of Gundam Unicorn. I do think that it does highlight one of my issues with this movie, which is that it spends a good amount of time dredging up old characters from shows like Zeta. I wouldn't really call it fan service, as all the cameos do have something to do with the plot, but I think the story would be more compelling if it focused on Yona, Michelle, and Rita more. Also, it might not be that big of an issue for me if this movie had fewer flashbacks. On board the Federation ship, the Damascus, we see that the pilots of the Shazar unit immediately think that Yona might be a cyber new type. Iago even secretly spies on a conversation between Yona and Michelle. He attempted to speak with Yona openly at first, but is shut out by Michelle's gray-haired confidant and advisor, Brick Teclado. Iago learns that Michelle and Yona both believe the Phenex to be piloted, a term I would use loosely, by Rita. This obviously makes him and the team more paranoid about having private contractors interfering with a secret Federation mission. And they aren't the only ones that are interfering with the mission, because now we get to meet a group of leftover sleeves that are doing the bidding for Minister Monaghan. While most of the crew remain unnamed, we do get introduced to their leader, Alec Hugo, the red-headed lieutenant leading the secret mission to capture the Phenex before the Federation. Along with the other various pilots is Zoltan Akanen, a failed clone of Shar Aznable, who tries really hard to leave the shadow of the Red Comet and also the comparatively successful Full Frontal. Zoltan isn't really my favorite character. He's kinda just this edgy psycho who's been driven mad by the thought of failure, and he also looks like he'd fit right in Demon Slayer. Time passes as both sides wait for the Phenex to show itself. Michelle has a piece of tech installed on the Damascus called the Psycho Monitor that supposedly allows them to track down the Phenex's incredible volume of psycho waves. Iago digs into Yona's background, still wanting to know if he's a cyber new type, but finds that his background states he's a totally run-of-the-mill soldier in the Federation that has pretty much never done anything to stand out. Iago finally just confronts Yona directly, wanting to know why an unremarkable ensign would be picked for a top-secret mission and working directly with a private company to pilot a Gundam. When Iago sees the broken pendant that Yona wears, he seems to recognize it, and Yona gives him an honest answer about needing to be the one to find Rita. While Michelle views Rita as a tool to be used, Yona is shown to still think of Rita as a friend. He cannot move on in life without this closure because he believes that everything that happened is his fault. Both the Federation and Zeon teams detect the Phenex at the colony Metis within Side 6. The Damascus and Zeon ship heads there right away, but they're reminded that Side 6 is a neutral colony and they'll have to be incredibly careful. I've seen multiple comments about how this is actually wrong because the sides were reorganized after the 1-year war, and what is Side 6 during this time was actually previously Side 4. It's kind of an easy mistake to make, and I know that if I didn't mention it here, there would probably be comments about it, so I thought I'd throw it in there. I just headcanon it as a comment coming from Zoltan, who is kind of nuts anyway, so he probably doesn't know what he's talking about. Michelle further demonstrates Liu and Ko's influence by gaining them entry into Metis to search for the Phenex. Yona blasts off to find it after receiving a vision of a bird and a young Rita, something that comes up time and time again. But instead of his long-gone friend, Yona runs into the Sleeves team, and Zoltan immediately attacks the narrative without any hesitation. The sight of a Gundam-type mobile suit makes him lose his marbles, man. He is convinced that the Federation has sent a new type to deal with a clone of the Red Comet, and becomes consumed with his own internal narrative to the point that nobody can really rein him in. Zoltan takes their battle from the skies of the colony to the city streets, blasting through buildings and causing utter destruction. When he sees that the Gundam narrative bits are wire-guided, he freaks out even further, believing it to be an insult, and coming up with this entire, story about how the Federation has sent a failed new type to kill a failed Red Comet, in a sort of twist of dramatic irony. The fight between Zoltan and Yona is interrupted when the Phenex actually does appear glowing in the sky. Zoltan gets knocked around by the Phenex's funnels and calls his ship to send him their secret weapon, the Neo Zeong. Meanwhile, inside the narrative's cockpit, Yona sees everything get taken over by Michelle's secret weapon, the NTD system. Unbeknownst to Yona, Michelle has had the new type destroy system installed in the Gundam, and now that it's activated, the suit ignores all of Yona's input and single-mindedly attacks the Phenex. Michelle says the Phenex represents the power to transcend death, and she'll do anything to have it. But just when it looks like the Phenex might be in her grasp, a hole is ripped in the side of the colony as the Sleeves ship delivers the gigantic Neo Zeong. Man, they really went from "we better be careful in this colony" to "fuck it" really quick. Zoltan attempts to get into the Neo Zeong, which is actually big enough that you just sort of plug your mech into the top of it, and because it's built with psycho frame technology, the narrative is actually able to psycho-jack it. That sounds a lot more sexual than it is, I promise. The Gundam is pulled towards the Neo Zeong, and we see that Yona is put into an almost catatonic rage state as the psycho waves overcome his willpower. Iago attempts to grab the narrative and pull it away, but he's pushed off. Iago says that this feeling he's getting is the same feeling as when Axis was pushed away from the Earth. It's a cool little reveal that he was one of the Federation pilots helping Amuro and Char at the end of the movie, and saw one of the largest displays of new-type power in the Universal Century firsthand. The movie now goes into what is probably the longest and most revealing look into Yona's past, and I've decided to talk about the bulk of the flashbacks all at once to make the video a little bit less messy. Yona, Michelle, and Rita always knew that Rita was special growing up, and as children they warned an entire town about the colony drop, saving many lives and becoming known as the Miracle Children. After the outbreak of the war and the realization that new types were a resource to be exploited by both sides, the three orphans were taken to a new type lab run by Federation officer Escola Goeda. In the lab, the three kids would undergo invasive experimentation until they are one day able to escape. They stow away on a ship and return to Australia to find the location of their orphanage and the surrounding countryside completely devastated from the colony drop. They were found after stealing food and returned to the lab. During the Grips War, all the Federation new-type labs were under the jurisdiction of the Titans. Stephanie Liu, the biological daughter of Wooman Liu, who showed up in episode 17 of Zeta Gundam, is seen in a meeting with Goeda. She pressures him, telling him that she is a survivor of the battle between the Zeta Gundam and the Psycho Gundam. Stephanie knows that the three Miracle Children are kept in one of his labs, and demands that they hand over the one they believe to be the true new type. Goeda wishes to find the true new type, but plans on keeping them for himself and sending the other two to Liu and Co. Michelle overhears a conversation that Goeda has with his assistant and learns that he plans to tell them that the real new type will be spared while the other two are cut up and experimented on in like a sort of bid to get them to come clean or compete with each other to prove that they're the real new type. While Michelle tells Yona that the two of them will be sent to Liu and Co., she goes directly to Goeda and tells him what she overheard, that Rita is the true new type, and that only she can go to Liu and Co. If Yona were allowed to leave, he would tell their secret, so Michelle throws them both under the bus to escape, knowing that Rita will most likely die, but Yona will probably live. After the Titans lost the Grips War, Yona was able to escape and erase his records, going on to join the Federation military. Reliving these traumatic memories has caused Yona to fly into a new type powered rage that threatens to destroy the entire colony. Luckily, Rita's new type Ghost appears before Yona and soothes him. She tells him that the reason the Phenex has returned to the Earth sphere is because a threat equal to the Unicorn has appeared, and she says that she will call upon Yona to help her soon. The narrative is then able to leave the Neo Zeong, and both sides retreat. We get this scene where Michelle is sat down in front of the captain and his crew and just gives a very down-to-earth explanation of new types. She tells them that these people exist that can utilize unseen energy that is theorized to be the human soul. We also kind of get an explanation on what psycho frame technology actually does, which is trap and store that energy. In my personal opinion, this is an interesting thing to include in the movie, but I do prefer when new types and their abilities are more mystical in nature. It's like when they introduced midichlorians to Star Wars. I really do not need a more in-depth explanation of what new types are or how they use their powers. Michelle also explains that the Psycho Monitor was a fraud, and her whole plan was to get the narrative to fight with the Sleeves in a bid to summon the Phenex. To her credit, the plan worked, but it confirms just how far Michelle is willing to go to catch the Gundam. It's also a nice look at how powerful corpos are in the Universal Century timeline at this point. I mean, Anaheim has always been a big player, but Liu and Co. is able to have enough recon on the Republic of Zeon that Michelle knew about the Sleeves being used, or she was directly working with Monaghan. The movie doesn't really say, but both could be possible. On the Sleeve ship, Alec makes contact with Monaghan, who tells her that the operation is a failure and that the attack on the colony is going to be blamed on radical terrorists with no ties to the Zeon government. He tells her to close up shop, escape as soon as she can, and tell no one else, because the Federation ship is going to destroy them. Unfortunately for Alec, Zoltan overhears this, walks in, and shoots her directly in the head. The Gundam narrative is being packed up to be picked up by Lu & Co. since the mission has been aborted. They are at this resupply point with a bunch of floating canisters of helium-3 when Zoltan attacks with the stolen Neo Zeong. The ships of the resupply point all start shooting at him, but end up hitting their own floating containers and just causing more destruction. Zoltan starts going totally wild, and he's able to use his new type powers that are being amplified by the Neo Zeong to grab and throw one of the huge canisters. He's then able to crush the canister with his mind and cause an even bigger explosion than if they were to shoot it. The Federation runs a simulation of what will actually happen if Zoltan uses his powers to compress and implode all of the helium-3 canisters at the same time, and it would basically rain destruction onto the Earth in an event that would be even worse than the colony drop. When Rita contacts Yona and tells him that she needs his help, he knows that this is the threat on par with the Unicorn. Yeah, the crazy Mohawk guy in the giant evil psycho frame is a pretty big threat, I would say. Michelle allows Yona to go out in the narrative, saying that only the living can finish something that the living started, a sort of motif for the entire film. As Rita holds out for Yona to arrive, we see that her new type abilities are so powerful that she essentially has battle meditation from Knights of the Old Republic and can direct the other Federation pilots to hit the Neo Zeong. When Yona finally arrives, he and Rita are able to coordinate in an epic battle against Zoltan, even throwing crazy waves of energy all over the place. Unfortunately, Zoltan is able to grab the Phenex and tap into Rita's power to grab all of the containers and make them start going critical all at once. When it looks like all hope is lost and the Earth is about to be destroyed, Michelle and Brick fly in with a shuttle, spilling psycho frame material all over the place. This allows Rita to harness all that power and make a barrier instead of doing whatever Zoltan wants. Yona is knocked out in the cockpit during this and has another flashback that shows how he got his pendant from his father, and once the Miracle children were split up, they all kept a peace. While Yona is taking a little nap, Zoltan is able to overpower the barrier and once again make the canisters begin to go critical. The Shazar team and their leader, Iago, comes in at the last second to shoot the canisters and disperse the gas. Better to waste all that helium-3 than, have it turn into a planet-wide shrapnel storm. Despite Iago truly believing that Yona and the Phenex can overcome the Neo Zeong because of his experience with new types saving the Earth once before, he's easy pickings for one of the huge machine's abilities, grabbing and controlling the systems of enemy mobile suits. I'm honestly kind of surprised that the movie shows Yona desperately trying not to kill Iago, because I thought this guy was absolutely toast. Like, beam rifle to the face, totally done, but I am happy they let him live because he's cool and I like him. Whatever, I'm biased. Michelle's shuttle flies in to block a beam that would have been a direct hit on the narrative, and Brick tells Jonas something he's been trying to tell him for a while. The reason that Michelle is so obsessed with capturing the Phenex and understanding psychoframe technology is not because she wants to use its time-altering abilities to save her father, and by extension her own position in the company. While that is a good side effect for her, her real goal is to prove that the human soul truly exists, and that the death of the physical body is not the end. If death isn't the end, then Michelle and Yona can see Rita again, and Michelle can take responsibility for what she's done. Michelle and Brick die, but the shuttle explosion takes out the wire attached to Iago's Jesta, freeing him from Zoltan's control. Yona can hear both Michelle and Rita egging him on as he rushes the Neo Zeong. The narrative is broken down into pieces from the relentless attack until it's nothing but a core fighter, which I thought was cool because we haven't seen a core fighter in a really long time. And even then, just Yona ends up in his normal suit. The narrative Gundam's sacrifice allows Yona to make it to the Phenex and enter the cockpit, finding it empty except for the third piece of the pendant that once belonged to Rita. Now that he has joined with Rita inside of the Phenex, Yona is able to power up and attack the Neo Zeong, cutting it into pieces. Zoltan ejects his mobile suit from the huge armor and goes on the attack, but he is literally punched out of the cockpit and slammed back into the Neo Zeong. It's kind of cool. Zoltan exclaims that even after death, they all become one, which allows him to utilize his super new type powers to start making all of the containers go critical again. He kind of has this like Obi-Wan Kenobi moment where he's like, if you strike me down, I'll be more powerful than you could ever imagine, Darth Vader, you piece of shit. Yona has his 10th vision from Rita, who tells him and Michelle that she is really sorry for dragging them both into this, but she couldn't finish it alone. And as a final act, the Phenex grows these big wings of light that are actually kind of similar to the wings of light that Riku gets in Gundam Build Divers. They even do pretty much the same thing, dispel all of the energy Zoltan is using and dissipate it, turning everything back to normal. Yona ejects from the Phoenix's cockpit and has a vision of the Unicorn as someone in a normal suit grabs him from behind. Yona is pulled inside this mobile suit, only to reveal that his savior is none other than Bonager. No, I'm not saying Benaji, fuck off. The pilot of the Gundam Unicorn. He was sent by Mineva to help out, I guess. She probably could have sent him a little sooner so he could do more than take one pot shot at Zoltan. Bonager tells Yona as they watch the Phenex speed off into deep space that even if they followed at top speed, they could never catch it. But one day, they will definitely be together again. And that was the story of Mobile Suit Gundam Narrative. Honestly, not too bad of a movie on its own. Keep in mind I've not seen Hathaway yet, so this is the only one of the modern UC movies I've seen at this point, but I think Narrative is totally fine as its own thing. The biggest complaint that I have about it is that it feels a little superfluous. Like, I'm not sure if anyone was asking for a follow-up to Unicorn in particular, but Unicorn has always been very popular, so it's not exactly surprising. I do wish they would have made a sequel to the themes of Gundam Unicorn that didn't rely on a super duper top secret third Unicorn suit that was never mentioned before. As much as I did bitch about flashbacks, I personally enjoy seeing footage of Zeta Gundam even when it's kind of jarring because of the animation style switch. And finally, I do think the characters are a bit boring, specifically Yona. I would say it's difficult to give a character a ton of personality in such a short amount of time, but just look at Gundam Thunderbolt. On the other hand, I think Michelle is actually pretty interesting. I wouldn't have minded if she was just the main character. Finally, Rita is just sort of the basic new type mystery girl that only really stands out because we see the horror that she was forced to go through during the experiments. Otherwise, she's just that flighty, otherworldly new type kid that we've seen done before. Anyway, let me know what you thought of Gundam Narrative down below, and if you were a new type, would you want to come back as a bird? I'd come back as a blue-tongued skink. See you next time. Hello everybody and welcome to today's end card. Let me thank my channel members, aka Batosai, Azure, Windrest, Brian Sanchez, Chris Goodnow, D. Gonzalez, Daniel Johnson, Dane O'Connor, Good Apollo, Grim07, Harmonious, Hidden Insanity, Jessica Solberg, Jay Lamb, Joe Castellanos, Joe Cavazos, Johnny G, Canto20, MB, McLean Nugent, Michael Lewis, Rother the Paladin, Sin Ryuki, The Crawl, Video Gamer 75, Zach Jones, and Zappa the Ace. Thank you all very much for continuing to contribute to the channel, being channel members. I very much appreciate it. So, we just saw the video of my thoughts on Mobile Suit Gundam Narrative, which I know a lot of people seem to not like this movie at all. I thought it was okay. Like, I didn't dislike it. I think that it would have been better if it was more like just focusing on the three main characters in their present day adventures and not, there's just so many flashbacks. It's so many characters that they're bringing up from Zeta Gundam, which Zeta Gundam's my favorite, so it seems weird for me to complain about that, but it just feels like the movie is all over the place. And maybe if the story of Gundam Narrative was like 6-episode OVA or even like a 12-episode season of a TV anime, it would have been better done. But it's not like the worst thing in the world. I think if I was going to give it like a rating on my anime list or something, I would give it like a 7. Passable. The fights are entertaining. don't love the nuts and bolts explanation of new types and space magic and how psycho frames work. I don't think that's needed at all, but it's there. I have heard that like nothing else references any of these characters. Well, no other animation. Maybe there's books or manga, but as far as I know, there's like nothing else that ever brings up this movie ever again, from what I've read online and what people are saying. So you can pretty much just ignore it too if you don't like it. I guess you can just headcanon it into not existing. So what's coming up next? The next full video that is coming out will be Zoid's Fusers, which is Zoid's Fusers is probably the worst series I've watched on this channel to review it. I dislike it a lot. I think that video will be fun for people that like it when I hate on things. I try to not hate on it too much in the video since it is a retrospective, but it's hard to not hate on Zoid's Fusers. And then, of course, after Fusers, we have Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise, which I'm working on that script right now, and what that show is incredibly impressively better than Gundam Build Divers. It's not the best thing in the world, but like it actually feels like they cared about the characters and they actually cared about the story they were telling. Unlike Divers, which it felt like Divers was run-of-the-mill, like they wanted to get that entire series over with until the very end, where they had all these weird ideas about AI and extracting a girl from your computer and putting her in a weird doll. So Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise, on the other hand, is like actually really interesting. I'm actually kind of invested in like all the main characters, so that's really nice. Anyway, that is what's coming up. As for non-Gundam stuff, I think the next like non-Gundam thing I'll be looking at besides Zoids is Flag, which is I think it's Ryosuke Takahashi, if I'm getting that correct. So we've looked at a couple of their works or things that they've been very influential on over the years here. So I'm excited to see Flag. It's only 12 episodes. I needed something a little bit shorter. And then I think what else is coming up this summer? There's a bunch of stuff I have planned. I want to do Gunsmith Cats because it's like only 3 episodes, and God, I love an 80s OVA. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Let's Let's talk about Gundam. And hey, we will see you all very soon.